That's me. I'm Cameron McClurg, Vice President for SpearMC. I have been doing PeopleSoft for a very long time, and but what I like to do is look at new emerging technologies and how that might be used for PeopleSoft customers. PeopleSoft has been my foundation for a long time in my career, but I'm really excited to learn new things like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and Oracle Guided Learning and chatbots and all the new technology and emerging stuff that we can use for PeopleSoft. So I'll tell you a little bit more about SpearMC in a second, but before I do that, I'll let Jeremy introduce himself.
Thanks, Cameron. My name is Jeremy Pelly. Many of you probably know me. I recognize quite a few names that are joining us today. And I am a strategy director within the HCM side. But from the guided learning side, I cover it across all the PeopleSoft applications. I work closely with Cameron and with our Oracle University team and our PeopleTools team to make sure that Oracle Guided Learning works well with PeopleSoft and is we've brought it to market for those of our PeopleSoft users. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be working with Cameron and SpearMC on this project and this rollout of guided learning and everything that we've been doing with guided learning. So yeah, go ahead, Cameron.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm sorry, Jeremy sent me a slide and apparently it didn't come through my email blocker, so I would have had a slide for him. So sorry about that, but you can see his face there. And I'm sure you can find his email address very easily if you want to email to him. But okay, so SpearMC, some of you, if you haven't been in any of our sessions, which we have a lot, you haven't heard this little blurb, but basically SpearMC, we do all things PeopleSoft, and that's what we do. I mean, we don't go off and do lots of other things. It's PeopleSoft. A couple years ago, we said, hey, we're going to double down on PeopleSoft. And so really, as it relates to any kind of pillar of PeopleSoft, the way we do work, whether it's managed services or staff aug or project work, we do all that different types of things. Today, we're focusing on the cross-section of emerging technology and training. That's a big thing that we're involved with, and we're excited to get into it today. We're recognized by Gartner for our work in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, so that was really nice recognition for us, just due to the fact that we're all in with PeopleSoft and PeopleSoft specifically on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So that was really nice recognition. And for a company like us, it's just nice to get that recognition. All right, here's the other sessions we're doing. There's a lot, and I'm not going to try to explain all the sessions. There's tons of sessions that SpearMC is doing. We're really excited to be one of the premier sponsors here at Reconnect, and we've been a partner with Quest for a long time. And so we like to get out there and get really involved. And so we have a lot of different sessions, a lot of really good content. The one thing I'll just point out is for your colleagues, if you like what you see today and you have a colleague that didn't get to see it, I am going to do another live demonstration of Oracle Guided Learning on Thursday at 10:15 Pacific. That time is Central, 12:15 Central, and was at 1:15 Eastern. So if you have a colleague who really wants to see Oracle Guided Learning, I'll do a shortened version of a demonstration of it on Thursday. And so I'll just point that out. Okay, let's get into this. So the state of UPK. So a while back, Oracle decided that UPK was a pretty good tool back in the day, and a lot of people bought it, implemented it, created essentially UPK scripts and trainings. And it worked really well at that time. It was a big step up from paper-based documents that resided somewhere in somebody's share. So it was a big step up. But as time has moved on and new emerging technology exists, Oracle made the decision to basically put UPK in a state of sustaining support as of December of this year. And that has created essentially an inflection point for a lot of customers who have been on UPK to determine what do we want to do with the state of our training. What do we want to do with all those UPK scripts? Maybe you're not a UPK customer, but you still have to put together training guides. And all those training guides are great, but they're essentially what we call look-away training. They take you away from what you're doing in the system to look away at the training. UPK basically does the same thing. And so as I've talked to customers over the course of the last year about this issue with UPK and what's the future state, we kind of determined that a lot of people don't want just UPK 2.0. They really want to consider new technology, new capabilities that take what they were doing before with training and taking it to the next level with really guided learning and guided processing. And so, so with that, we need to talk about digital adoption platforms. And here you can see not PeopleSoft. This is my phone, okay? And because people are listening, I can't say what phone this is, but you can all look at it and see what kind of phone this is. But bottom line is, I just rolled out a new OS. I installed a new OS, and as part of that, I got these nice little pop-ups on my weather application and my mail application. And so you can see there, it says tap for more detail here on my weather application. On the mail, it says, hey, did you know that you can, send this later? So basically what's happening is that they rolled out new features on the phone. The problem is, how do you help your users of the phone understand there's new features? Because typically people don't upgrade their iOS or whatever their phone and then go and refer to help documentation before they start using their phone. They just use the phone. And so there's a delicate balance between telling people about new features and being heavy-handed with saying, no, I need you to take training before you use this feature. And that's why this whole new thing called digital adoption platform exists. And this is essentially the description of a digital adoption platform, but essentially it's no-code software that basically sits on top of your application, and without being heavy-handed, it walks you through a new feature. And so instead of making you go and pull information, it's actually going to push information to you, but in a nice way. It's going to allow you to sort of, hey, yeah, sure, I'll click on this and learn something new that I didn't know, that I could learn more about specific daily weather, or that I could send later on my mail app. So as you start to see other websites, as I'm on my TV using a smart, a smart TV and open up an application on the TV, you see this stuff starting to pop up everywhere. I saw it on an ESPN app on my TV. It was on a website from my daughter's dance website or whatever, right? So everywhere you go, you see this stuff popping up, and it really is addressing a need that's existed for a long time. How do you get people to really understand there's new things there, what they're looking at? And so if we think about that concept, really PeopleSoft really should be the same way. And now with Oracle Guided Learning, it can be. So Oracle Guided Learning can do meet that same exact need for PeopleSoft. How do we take in POM images? How do we roll out updates? How do we just simply help somebody do repetitive tasks that they can't remember how to do? Or it's maybe an occasional user that comes in and does one transaction a year. Maybe they come in and do open enrollment one time a year, and they just want to be guided through that process. Maybe you have users who don't actually want to learn. They don't want to be trained. They don't care. They don't need to memorize a process. They don't care about memorizing a process. They just, can you just walk me through this? I don't really want and need to learn and memorize this thing that you're asking me to do, but I know I have to come in and do this thing. Can you just walk me through it? So all of those scenarios are now addressed with Oracle Guided Learning for PeopleSoft. So it's a real-time embedded application that sits on top of your PeopleSoft environment. So it's a real time. It's not a copy of PeopleSoft. It's not a some kind of facsimile or an image of PeopleSoft. It's PeopleSoft. You're in PeopleSoft, and this is going to guide you, walk you through an actual process. So that real-time guide can take you through a complex transaction, a simple transaction, it doesn't matter, but it's real time. That's going to lead to faster time and productivity. So it's for those people who don't care to learn something, they're just going to do the thing you're asking me to do. Just guide me through it, right? And other people, you have core people who need to come into PeopleSoft all the time. Maybe it's a new employee, and you need to train them on how to do things. This is going to teach them how to do things and be much more productive faster. The third piece that makes this Oracle Guided Learning just a game changer is that there's a level of analytics, which means that as you roll out these Oracle Guided Learning guides, you actually can watch on the back end who's actually running them. Not only can you get them to, or people to give feedback, to rate that guide, to provide feedback and say, yes, we like this guide, but can it do this, can it do that? But you can also see for support tickets, who's creating support tickets? Are those people actually running the guides on that process? If not, that's your starting point. instead of trying to address that issue with that person, you're just like, hey, there's a guide for this. Let's walk through this guide together, and that'll teach that person, and they probably won't ever create a ticket again on that issue. So that level of analytics and analysis that comes on the back end is really a game changer for this, in addition to these other pieces. I have a bunch of slides that talk through this, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go right into the demo so I can show you all this stuff, because I really am a believer in this, and seeing is believing with Oracle Guided Learning. So I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to show you a bunch of different examples of how it can be used. And I definitely want you to ask questions. So you can use the chat in the platform on the website. Use the chat, ask questions as we go. Jeremy is going to moderate that and jump in and ask or repeat the questions. It is definitely going to be an interactive session, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. With that, Jeremy, do you have any comments, or are there any questions?
No, I think that's perfect, Cameron. And if anybody has a question for me or Cameron, just put it in the chat.
Excellent. All right. So here we're looking at standard PeopleSoft. I'm in PeopleSoft Financials today, so my demo is going to be in Financials, but same thing could go for HCM or for Campus Solutions. You may notice a couple things that look a little bit different. Now, of course, if you haven't moved to the Fluid interface, everything looks different. But those of you that have moved to Fluid, you understand that there's these tiles, home pages, etc. Your menu is no longer on the left; it's on the right with the nav bar, etc. So a lot of things look different, but there's three things that look completely different, and that is the widget over here, which I'll explain. There's a task list down here that I can move around. And then there's this little hover question mark over here that you can see. So those are new things. I'm going to explain each one of them. So this widget is the actual library of all of our guided learning guides. So as you have your application, you can have a library of guides that you want to allow people to use. And so that might be things like self-service. It might be things related to a specific area like AP or a module specific. It might be even general announcements, things like, hey, did you know that PUM 46 is going to be released next Wednesday? I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's the point, is you can make these announcements. So you can put this stuff into the library and people can still pull that information. That still allows people to essentially follow the same model as before, where a user can, if they know they need to be trained on something, they know they want to be guided through something, they can go pull that information by clicking on any one of these items. It will launch a guide that will then walk them through the process. Okay, so that's the first thing, and we'll do all these things, but I just show you that for right now. Second, I can group any of those guides into a task list, like right here, and say, this is our new user task list. So when you're a new user, these are the things that you should complete before you kind of go on. And this is just a sampling, but you should know about how to set up your preferences. You should understand how to use search, understand process monitor, etc. And we have just some sample guides in here to say, yeah, these are things that you should know about. And as you do these things, it'll mark them as complete, move on. So that's a task list. So it's a task list is grouping certain processes and certain guides that we want somebody to use. And again, I can control what happens where. So a library that shows up on the front page like this could be a completely different library when you go to a specific page. Let's say I go to the AP page, and the AP page, I could have all my guides just for AP right there, for your core users there. I go to employee self-service guides, etc. So I can completely control that. I can control where the task list shows up and when it shows up and for which people. So let me downsize that. Last, so these are still a situation where a user knows they need to pull information and be trained on something. So they're still going to pull that information, but there's something beyond that, which is these nice, what we call smart tips. And this can be embedded anywhere on any page. So instead of an actual guided process, it can be this helpful tip that shows up right on a page. So right here, you can see right next to the menu, I can hover over it, and it says this little message, this little pop-up message says, pro tip, do you know how to use the search bar? Did you know you could search for suppliers and vouchers? Did you know you could find that hard to find menu item? I did this one specifically because as we roll out PeopleSoft to a lot of customers, a lot of people don't know how to use search, and they don't traditionally use search. They actually still go to the menu, they memorize where to go. And as search is more and more ingrained in the newer People Tools versions, this is just something that people should know. So we created this guide that would say, hey, do you know about this? And it says it's a really nice, not heavy-handed thing. It's just sort of right there, a guide for you if you want it. And you say, do you want to learn more about search? Click here to learn more about search. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, sure. You know what? Yeah, I do want to learn about search. So I'm going to click here, and it's now going to take me into a guided process to teach me how to use search. I say press next to begin. And now it says, okay, right here, this search bar allows you to search for menu items, the default, or to find content with specific areas. Every step here is completely controlled by you. You put whatever content you want in each of the steps. You link it to whatever field or area on the screen that you want to link it to. One really important point is that it's linked to the HTML object. So as these objects get moved around, so does the messaging. So just because we have tiles and if the tiles get moved around, that'll actually move with it. And I see that now I've gotten all messed up because I have this behind the scenes. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on, guys. Let me start that one again. All right. So I'm gonna do it from here. All right. Okay, so I click on the menu, and as I do the actions, it recognizes it and it takes me to the next step. Now I have an option to at any point offer a next button to allow people to manually move through the steps. But in this case, because I'm telling somebody go ahead and click on menu, I'm actually taking away that next button and telling people just go ahead and click on the thing and it will walk you through it. So in this case, it says for AP related content, click on AP, try it out. And you have that nice beacon that's sort of drawing your attention. So I'm clicking on that. And up here it says, okay, go ahead and enter a search word like a voucher ID, a payment ID, or a vendor name. So here I'm going to type in the part of a vendor name like Midton. And it's going to immediately pop up vouchers and payments associated with this one specific vendor. Now, I'm not here to teach you about how search works, right? That's not the point of this demo today. I'm showing you how this guide will walk your users through how to learn how to use search, or how to use a process, or how to do an activity. And each step of the way, it's going to walk you through, okay, here search results will display, and click next. Okay, switch back to menu. I'm going to click on menu, click next, enter search word like voucher, and eventually it says, okay, now I understand you're looking for regular entry. And by the way, search knows that regular entry is the primary voucher entry screen. So I'm teaching people as they go through this process. And now the user is going, okay, I know that how to use the menu. I can do context, like a menu type of search, or I can look for content in a specific module. And now I've kind of learned that as I go through this process. And this concludes the guide on how to use search. I click on done. And now this is nice, like, okay, do you want to rate this guide? Sure, I'll rate it 5. Can you add content on AR, for example, and I submit that as a user. And that now goes back into the analytics. As an administrator, I can now get that and see that and say, oh, okay, a lot of people are asking for AR content. Let's add a couple more steps to this process to walk them through how to look up AR customer content. So very easy to do that. I finish that step, you'll notice that on my task list, that step is now completed. Okay. Before I show you a couple more different guides, I'll point out that as part of the library, as well as these guides, you'll have this little arrow. And then what this is called a step guide. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And what's going to do is it's going to give me a visual of all the steps in that process. So step 1, here's a screenshot of what happened there and the text related to it. Step 2, I did not have to create this step guide as part of the creation of the guide. It creates it automatically for you. This step guide is created automatically based on a screenshot of when you confirm that step and the text that you're putting into each step. So somebody can actually visually look at all the steps in this process without actually running through it. So that speaks to sort of that traditional view on training where somebody wants a document to kind of look at the things without actually being in PeopleSoft. Now, of course, we think that the real value of OGL is to actually take you through an actual process and guide you through that process. So we don't, the step guides are great. It just really answers a question that people are going to ask, which is, can I get a printout of this, right? Can I get a printout of this guide? And yes, you can. So you can do a PDF, and that will take you, brings up your PDF viewer, and eventually when my computer gives me my preview, I'll have that in a PDF form, okay? And you can print that out. Again, not the main value of this, but you can do that. The other thing I really like is you can email this. So I could actually take this email, take this guide and send it off to whoever I want to. Let's say I'm in a help desk format, IT help desk, and somebody says, hey, I don't know how to do this. And help desk says, oh yeah, let me just send you the guide for how to use search. You can send this, the person would click on that, and it comes into basically the same exact screen where they're looking at the entire step guide. Lastly, you can also actually just watch a video too. And again, I don't have to create this. I didn't have to do anything. That's both good and bad. I can't edit the video. That's not an option as part of Oracle Guide Learning. But the great thing is I didn't have to create this video in the first place. It just automatically kind of shows them the walkthrough and where you're clicking and doing different things, a little beacon that shows you how to click through things. So again, nice little video. It kind of walks you through. At any point, I can just close out this entire thing. So that's a step guide, and it does offer that sort of extra step when people want to see it visually without actually running through it. With that, before I go to the next example, I see a couple of items in the chat. Jeremy, is there a question?
Yeah, we have two questions. So one is specific to the step guide. So I wanted to get that before you got off this, and that is, can you modify the text in the step guide?
So the step guide is specifically related to the text in your guide. So you can't have a disconnected language in your step guide versus what's in your actual steps. So as I build steps and I put language and say, click here and this is related to this search, type in mid-10, whatever, what you saw that before, that exact text is what's going into that step guide.
Okay, and the next question actually came before you started the demo, so I don't know if they kind of got it, but it says, can the Oracle Guided Learning be turned off and on by users on demand?
So this widget can't be turned on or off. The widget's going to be there. However, at any point, I can launch into a guide, and let me do that. At any point, I can close and say, yeah, I don't want this. I can just close it. And what happens with that is it's actually tracked, again, as part of analytics. And it basically said, it tracks that. It says that's a person who started that guide and didn't complete it. That's a really important piece of the analytics, because if you're walking somebody through a process and they're not completing, you have a very low rate across the board of people finishing this guide, it might mean that that could mean two things. One is the guide is walking somebody through something so obvious that they're like, yeah, I got it, and they close out of it. Or it could actually indicate that there's some issue with the guide where, based on how they're clicking, it's kind of stopping the guide and they're dumping out of it. So there's something to pay attention to there. So that is tracked on the back end. But point is, yes, to answer your question, yes, at any time I can close out of that. I can even close this task list as well. And by the way, that task list is also embedded here if you'd like to embed it into the actual library as well.
Okay, great.
Hopefully that answered the question. Okay, so I showed you the example of the library, and then I showed you the idea of a smart tip that can be attached anywhere on the screen, on any screens. But there's sort of another scenario, which is to say, what if I have a user who comes to a casual user, and I actually want to predict or to offer guidance to that person who may not even know about OGL, they don't know what this widget is, they don't know about the smart tips or anything. They just know that I have to come into something. This could work for suppliers too, which I'll show you here in a second. But let's say I go to e-procurement, and I know enough to say, I think I go to e-procurement. I'm gonna click on that. And when I go here, I can actually pop up a message. So you'll notice that the library is not part of this. I am offering guidance to somebody, say, hey, welcome to this page. From here, you can create a requisition, you can track outstanding requisitions or receive shipments. And here's a link out to policy information about becoming a requisitioner. So I can take that link out to an intranet page. I actually can even take them to another guide. So this is a guide that's basically, it's called a splash tip. It says, I want this tip to show up whenever somebody comes to the e-procurement page. I want them to be greeted with this sort of screen that says, hey, do you know you can do something? Do you want me to walk you through it? Now I could just say done and I'm done with it. I don't need to go through that. Or I could be like, yeah, you know what? Can you walk me through? I will click on this and let you walk me through that process. So here I said, yeah, go ahead and walk me through creating a requisition. So I'm going to now follow the guidance. So click on the requisition. It's going to now launch me into the requisition screen, and it's going to walk me through every step that I need to take. Now, I have another example on a different page where it's like, hey, if this business unit, it says enter business unit. If the business unit's blank, it's because you haven't set up user preferences correctly. Click here to be guided through a process to set up your user preferences. So you have this ability to actually stop and help somebody right when they're in the moment of need, right? And this comes from real life, right? We've supported people for years with requisitioning and different end user things where they go in and they just get stopped because they don't know what they're supposed to do. And something so simple like a business unit, they're like, I don't even know what this is. And it's just blank, right? It just means their user preferences weren't set up, right? So they could actually go and set that up and you could guide them through. Here's the different business units. You might want this business unit if you're this type of user, or you might want this business unit if you're a different type of user. So it's going to guide them through that process that has traditionally been solved through training documentation or a call to the help desk. Okay, so again, into the business unit, you'll notice here that everything on the screen is still available, but I just put a border around the field that I'm pointing people attention to. You notice on the previous one, everything was grayed out. Those are simply options. You can say when you want to gray everything out, when you want to focus everybody's attention to a message or to a field, or if you want to leave everything open like you see here and just put a border around something. I can even remove the border and just keep the message. You have full flexibility with how you do this stuff. So to do that, enter requester. If you do not see your name here, go ahead and please email FMS support and they'll add you as a requester, right? Or I could have taken them to a guide to, to a request page, a form that says, here, fill out this form to become a requester. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to select a person and click on next. It says, okay. And now I'm in just the normal process. I'm just learning. I'm just being guided through creating an entry. And I come into the ePro screen, create requisition, and I'm greeted with a new thing. And now we're talking about a fourth or fifth or sixth scenario. Now we're talking about there's a support issue. See this, there's an alert. A bug has been reported in the creation of requisitions. So this is not the guy that I just came from. The guy that I came from wants to walk them through how to create a requisition, but I've put now a new message on the screen that I want people to be aware of. There's a bug. And if you don't follow our process, you don't follow our guided process with this, you might hit on this bug. So go ahead and click on this, click here, and it'll actually walk you through a happy path to avoid that issue. I wish I could have had this when I was doing support of our users. It's just such an important thing to jump in there and tell people, hey, we can see you going down a path that you're going to have a problem. Go ahead and just click on this and let us guide you through this problem. It will dramatically decrease support issues. And so you can click on that guide and be walked through a process. So I'm going to just close out of that one. So there's a bunch of different scenarios that this covers. The one other one that I'll just point out is that what traditionally has been solved in the PeopleSoft world was something called event mapping, where if you see something on the screen, if the user does a certain thing, do X. So for example, let's say the user goes to put in a payment request, they want to be paid back, and that screen allows for all the different currencies. But we don't pay back in multiple currencies, we only pay back in USD. So what are your options? Well, you can either customize the page through event mapping and restrict it to only USD, or you could say, if the user enters something other than USD, pop up a message, again, with event mapping to say, hey, we see that you've created a non-USD payment request. The event mapping is fantastic, and OGL doesn't replace event mapping completely. However, OGL will look for certain activity, and it can pop up a message if it sees something. So for example, you type in something other than USD, pop up a message that says, we see that you enter something other than USD. We do not pay back in anything other than USD. Please change your payment request back to USD. The difference between the event mapping solution to that problem and the OGL solution to that problem is OGL zero code in PeopleSoft. None. There's zero code. Event mapping, it's a bolt-on, but it's still code in PeopleSoft. Okay? So OGL can actually address some of those things that we used to only be able to do with event mapping. So that's really pretty cool. Okay? Okay. I will show one more example, and that is through the supplier portal. And I think this is a really, really good example. Earlier today, I imagine some of you were on my session for chatbots, and you guys started asking me really good questions about, well, wait, why would we use chatbots versus OGL? And they actually both solve some similar problems, which is casual users who don't really know how to use the application that well, and they just want to, have a simple way to create complex transactions or to use the system. Chatbots are great. There's an interactive nature to it, and you can use that for supplier. There's delivered supplier chatbots in the supplier portal. So I'm going to show you the OGL version of that you can use for supplier portal as well. So let me, I think I might need to close this window and restart. Let me restart this with going in supplier portal. Okay. So I'm logging in supplier portal, and this could be a page that it shows up again for somebody who's a very casual user. So the scenario here is with suppliers who don't know that they're logging into PeopleSoft. They don't know what PeopleSoft is. All they know is on, let's say, an intranet site, it says, click here to register as a bidder for potential RFPs, or click here to become a registered supplier for us. And they click on that and they come to this screen right here. And it says, hey, welcome to eSupplier Portal. Click next to take a tour. So now instead of just simply coming to a page with all the tiles, and now the supplier who knows nothing about PeopleSoft is greeted and says, well, I have to look at the names of the tiles to try to figure out, what I'm supposed to do. They would then try to figure it out and click around and try and figure it out, right? This now can then take them through a tour of that through the actual steps. So here it says to register as a bidder or supplier, click here. And this is very basic language. I would probably, if we're doing this for a client, we'd probably put the, much more extensive language to sort of walk them through it. Maybe we'd link out to policy documentation on who can become a bidder or supplier. That's simply putting in a link. Click on next, post bidding events here, click on next. So I'm now walking a supplier through what these different tiles mean, and I can make that available to them at any time here in the supplier portal. So if they leave and come back, they can always be guided through how to use it. And that's something, again, like I was pointing out previously, where we're seeing digital adoption platforms on other tools and platforms like my phone or a website. One thing I've noticed about those places is that if you're like, yeah, I don't want to look at this right now, and you X out of it, there's really no way to get that back on those websites or on my phone. Here, as an administrator of OGL, you have complete control of that behavior. Do you want that message to always show up for somebody to walk them through a guided process? Or do you only want it to show up once, and once they close out of it, it won't come back? You have full flexibility and control of that and when you roll this out for people. So I just want to point that out. So I click on next. We're going to announce bidding events 30 days before release. So I'm entering additional information that wouldn't normally be there. It's just an announcement tile. And so I'm introducing, some of my own policy information into that, that guidance on what's going to show up there. Eventually it says, once you register a supplier, you're going to be able to click, see additional features. Go ahead and click here. And it says, okay, yep, click on supplier secure homepage. And now it says, once you register a supplier with us, you'll be able to access this page, and you're going to be able to, get to other additional stuff, blah, blah. And then I can walk them through, okay, here's what's on here, quotes and POs and invoices, etc. I think I didn't take it any further. I think I just tell them go back to the main supplier homepage. And it says that concludes the eSupplier overview guide. So again, very simple example. Oh, and I have a, feedback. You don't have to have this feedback, by the way. You can turn that off so the guide doesn't have the feedback. That's simply a nice to have feature that you can turn on or off by each individual guide. And if I just don't even want to, I don't want to do it, I can just skip it. Okay,
All right, Cameron, do you
let
have
me pause. Yeah.
So you answered some of the questions as you went, which I kind of figured you would. So we'll skip those. One of the questions is Oracle guided learning accessible for screen readers?
Great question. So we've had a couple questions about accessibility, and so Jeremy, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I do know there's some things in accessibility. When I go to create steps, there are some features, and I'll just be honest with you, I haven't rolled that out and I haven't played with it, but there are some steps when I go and create individual steps that allow me to draw attention to that individual step through accessibility. So I'm not an expert in screen readers, but I believe that feature is supposed to take your screen reader to that thing and either read it to you or zero in on that if it's a visual impairment situation. So again, I don't have a ton of information on it. I don't have an example of that, but there is accessibility built into this. How far it goes, that's another question, but there is accessibility.
Yeah, and Amanda, if you need more information on that, if you want to contact me, I'll see if I can get with our Oracle University folks to actually find out, because I don't know that. I know there's accessibility, but I don't know specific about the screen reader. And if you have a certain screen reader, we could definitely check on that.
And Jeremy, I'm happy to set up a little proof of concept. And
Okay.
if somebody has a screen reader, I can set it up and just try it out and see, because we asked the question about 3 months ago. This came up from somebody else who asked the same question when I was doing this demo for somebody else. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of information on accessibility. But the cool thing about OGL that I probably didn't explain well enough is OGL is a SaaS application. And so it's constantly being updated every few months. And the latest version of OGL was rolled out recently. And I believe that accessibility might be one of the new features that came out, because I don't remember seeing that option before. And I think it is now. So you might not get a ton of information, Jeremy, if you ask internally, but I'm happy to try it out. If anybody wants to connect with me afterwards, I can try it out and then give you a link and we can see if it works. I don't really have a screen reader myself, but I can work with you to try to figure that out.
Right, great. And then you answer the question as far as can it be used on Supplier Portal? And I believe you answer the question of if the user clicks done, will it show up again, the same message the next time they return to the page?
Yeah, and you've got control of that. So it depends on if you want that guide to be always popping up. That becomes sort of an annoyance factor, right? Do you want to allow that, or do you not want to allow that? What you can always do, again, in that non-heavy-handed way, is offer that nice little smart tip that allows them to launch something. It's there, but they don't have to hover on it, right? It's a little question mark. You say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let me guide me through this process, right? So that's a little bit easier than popping up a message and making somebody click out of it, right? So you have full ability to let people pull information from the library. You have those splash tips or smart tips that are available on the screens, and then you can push information or push training to people. That's really the really cool thing about this is, depending on the scenario, you might use any one of those options to address the need.
Yeah, and so the next question is a good one. It says, can this tool be used on custom pages? And you may want to talk about classic versus fluid and things like that here.
Yeah, it works on it all because it's all HTML based. So I'm in supplier portal, so I don't think I can go to a classic version. I was going to say I'll go click on the classic menu. I don't think that's here in this one. It would be in my other one, and I would go to my classic menu. And yes, the guys work in classic menu, no problem. They work on custom pages. The guides, let's put it this way, the guides are connected to HTML objects, and that frees you from anything specific. How do I say this in a way? It's OGL doesn't really understand PeopleSoft. It understands HTML objects, if I could put it that way. So when I create a guide, I'm looking for HTML objects to link my message to. When I click on that, it's going to expect that there's a new HTML object on the screen, and I'm going to attach my message to that new HTML object. So it's not like it's embedded in PeopleSoft. It's not an app designer. project. It's not code in PeopleSoft. It's expected to see things on the screen, and when it does, it attaches messages to those areas, or it just creates a splash tip right in the middle of the screen. But that answers your question, because it'll work for bolt-ons, whatever pages you have. It works for HCM, campus, financials. It works for all of that. And by the way, when you buy this, and we can kind of maybe go back to my deck, because I've got some slides on sort of how you buy it and all that. It actually works for non-PeopleSoft applications as well. When you buy it, you actually get 3 applications, and all of PeopleSoft is one. So if you have PeopleSoft Financials and PeopleSoft HCM, that only counts as one application, and you get 3. So you get 2 more. And so any non-Oracle or any Oracle application, if it's HTML based, you can use it. Now, there's always a caveat, right? Which is that, let's say you're trying to use it on Workday or some other SaaS application. There's going to be probably some difficulties, because you need to get that little widget to show up on that screen. And how open are you to be able to get that code embedded on the back end of the web layer of that other application, which is something that Oracle provides support for all Oracle applications. There might be some tricks there, but Oracle University is committed to supporting this as a general platform that can be used for any HTML application, whether it's Oracle or not. So they're committed to that. They provide support for that. And the great thing is, when you buy this for PeopleSoft, you get it for 2 more applications as well.
Perfect. Last question, because before we let you go on, Cameron, and it says, can you modify the pop-ups based on someone's level of access and responsibility in PeopleSoft? For example, if there's an update for an HR feature, can you force a pop-up for only people with the level of impact?
So if you're so asking if, let's say, a splash message, let me go back to this like ePro page, and you want, let's say, the splash tip to show up only for people based on their PeopleSoft roles. I believe, yes, there is a way to do that. We're working on that. What we would sort of design as a more simple process, because what's going to happen if you do that is you're going to create this really complex matrix between different messages and guides with all the PeopleSoft roles that they are matched to, and you have this really massively complex matrix of things. What we would produce, or what we would suggest to you, is that when you go to a specific screen, let's say the ePro screen, you would pop up a message with specific guides that are relevant to the ePro screen, because not everybody has the ePro screen, right? So when somebody goes to that page in PeopleSoft, based on their security, then you can control the messages that pops up on the screen. You can also pop up certain messages. You'll see that some messages appear here, some guides appear in the widget in the library, but not all. So you can control what shows up even in the library when you go to that screen. So our recommendation is not to try to tie it to the roles, which again, we're working on. We're trying to get that all tied out with Oracle, trying to figure out how to connect the dots there. And we believe we can do it. But we think a more simple approach to this, and a much more effective, sustainable approach, is to simply link those guides to the page where they're actually going to. Okay, if that makes sense. And by the way, if I were on the home page here, just to kind of follow up on that, let's say you saw that there were, let's say, AP and AR guides here. Let's say I am a AP specialist, and I would not have access to, let's say, AR guides. If I clicked on this and it said, go ahead and do these things, at some point it would stop. It said, yeah, you don't have access. So it would just stop. The guides don't give you additional access, because I'm still in PeopleSoft, right? So the guides don't give me additional security access. So at the end of the day, you do have that safety net that says, yeah, the worst case scenario is somebody could try to launch a guide. They're not going to get very far, because it's going to take them to a place that they don't have access to. Okay. Any other questions, Jeremy?
Sorry, I muted myself. I was actually answering it, but through the chat. But it said, can functional admin users create or update training?
And the answer is absolutely yes. This is a front-end tool, and I'll just show you really quickly. I'm not going to do a deep dive on the development side, but what you're going to look at here is this is Oracle Guided Learning, the actual application. Okay, so when you go in, you get a tenancy for Oracle Guided Learning. You're able to go in and create one tile equals a guide. So I can create a new guide. Let me, just for the sake of this, let me go into, for example, that one that was for using search. And let me even, I don't even know what it is. Let me just type it in search. Okay, so pro tip, search. I'm going to go ahead, actually this one, using search. So I'm going to launch this one. What's going to happen is it's going to take me into the PeopleSoft environment. So I log in. I'll show you this really quickly. So you'll have the OGL toolbar over here on the left side, and I can click on this and see all the steps. At each step, I can change the language, I can add fonts or change the fonts, I can add a link to say, launch this other guide. At any time, I can change any of that, right? I would then, as I click through this, it takes me to the next step and says, okay, for search, this is where your messaging comes up. I have a whole set of features here, settings that allow me to control how does this appear. For example, right now, you'll notice that everything's grayed out. It's drawing my attention to this menu right here. But if I just wanted to make that a border and not overlay, I could do that. And now it just is a border, but everything is still available on my screen. That's as simple as just that feature right there, border, overlay, border, and overlay. So you can see that there's no code here. There's no JavaScript. There's no people code. It's all very functional. You just have to know which check. Do you want the next button to show up or not? Do you want the width of the message to pop up in a wider format? Where do you want this to show up? Do you want to activate the next step when they click on the element? And of course, we have training for all this, and in our implementations, we're gonna do this, set stuff up for you and show you how to do it, so you can go and learn how to do all this stuff. But you have full flexibility on how to do this stuff. Create conditions to skip stuff, move things around. It knows if it sees something to advance the next step or to offer an alternative path, basically. At any point, you're always using the selector to say, I want to attach to this button right here, this menu button, or this essentially HTML object. And so there's a whole thing about how to grab the target, but you can see all very doable for a functional person. If you took this and said, oh, I want to add a step, you just add a step, move it up there, and just change the language, change the settings, and now you've got an initial step in there. So you can see how easy this is, and how you could create a new let's say a bug is you determine there's a bug, and you want to create a message for everybody saying, hey, there's this bug. I could create that in literally about 30 seconds. It does take about 20 to 30 minutes for the caching to take place between your SaaS application and that message to pop up in PeopleSoft. But once it's there, any changes are real time as you make those changes in OGL into the PeopleSoft environment. So very, very easy to do. I'm going to discard this since I don't want to mess up with my thing. And let me go back now to my deck and just go through here and finish up.
And Cameron, just a time check, about 10 minutes.
Yep, thank you. I'm gonna. So all these, please go download the deck. It's uploaded on the website, and hopefully I answered or showed you all the things that you're going to see on here. But you can go through this and learn about this is the how you have the back end of the OGL tool. This shows you a little bit. I didn't show you the analytics. Let me just show you really quickly. So the analytics, I talked about how you're going to be able to track the usage of the guides and see who, the level of engagement of people. Are people dumping out? That's going to lower your level of engagement. How many people completed it? How many, when was the last run? Who ran it? You can even zero in on a specific person and say, for that person, what did they run during this time frame? Or did that user actually run the guide where they're creating these tickets, the support tickets now? I can zero in and say, did that person run the guide, right? A level of detail that I would never have known. And I always kind of chuckle about this, because we used to create guides, like training guides, and people would, call in and say, hey, I can't do this transaction. And we say, well, did you check the training? Yeah, I checked. Okay. We never knew if they really checked and checked the training guide, right? Now we can look and say, actually, I don't see that you actually completed I almost said UPK, this OGL guide here. So let's walk through that guide together, and then hopefully you can minimize those support tickets. Okay, we talked about the step guides. We actually saw that. Okay, so some frequently asked questions. Does it work for PeopleSoft on-prem? Yes, of course. It works PeopleSoft wherever. Even though OGL is a SaaS application, it works for you wherever your PeopleSoft exists. Does it work in classic mode? Yes, I already answered that one. Multi-language, yes, you can actually turn your guides and create a alternate language for those steps. And so a user can flip from the native or default language, potential English, to a non-default language, and all the same steps would occur, but the messaging would then be in the alternate language. So that's how multi-language works. Anything 855 and higher, does it work on 901? Yes. Does it work for non-Oracle applications? I already mentioned that. It works on any HTML-based application. Okay, hopefully you guys see this and you're like, I'm in, I get it. It's gonna be really great. So let's talk about pricing. So I'm not gonna say this is exactly how much it costs, right? Because everybody's going to get, your specific quote based on your specific scenario. But I will say SpearMC is the official reseller of this. We've been working with Oracle for over a year to build this product out, work on delivering OGL for PeopleSoft to the market, and we are the official reseller. As part of that, as part of the resell, we bundle installation of it, a couple of guides we'll build for you, and then a training workshop on how that actually works. Okay, so that's that last bullet point at the bottom of it. That's our value add as a reseller of this product. The pricing that you're going to get is based on how many applications, so non-PeopleSoft applications, and how many you want to go to. 3 is the minimum, but you can go up to 6 or 9 or however many applications you think you're going to need this for. The metric is going to be based on your total employee count. So even if you only have 100 users in PeopleSoft, if you have 1,000 employees, it's going to be based on the total employee head count. So, but we can work with you on discounts to bring those numbers down if we need to. And then the standard is a 3-year term for this, which is the standard for all Oracle SaaS applications, the standard 3-year term. So as part of that, the pricing, as I mentioned, we do the bundling of all those other items. But we can add additional implementation as a separate SOW, a separate work with you. We can also sell you a starter kit. So let's talk about that for a second. The guides that you saw today, when you buy Oracle Guide Learning, you don't have anything. It's a blank canvas. Oracle does not produce any guides, and they're not going to produce any guides on how to do things in PeopleSoft. That's where we're coming in. We're building our starter kit, and we're going to have this across the board for all casual users, employee self-service, manager self-service, our core functions, AP, benefits administration, admissions. We're working on that right now, and we actually think we're going to have a very good set within the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to be completed and ready to bring to you to fast track your build. So we're really excited about that starter kit. And what you'd be able to do is you can see some of the things like, for example, set up user preferences, understand report manager, understand process monitor. We're building this so that you can take it and tailor it to your specific environment. You can put your branding on it. You can insert additional steps. You can change the language, but the starter kit will automatically already take you right to process monitor. And all you got to do is add a couple of steps or change the language. It's going to really, really fast track your build of this thing and lower your implementation costs. So we're really excited about that. In general, if you think about this, this is generally the path you need to be thinking about. Big picture here, kind of consider what you're currently doing with either UPK or your training, and consider, what is that next step? Where do we want to go in the future with helping people learn how to use the application, learn new features, the whole thing. So kind of take a step back. What do we want to do? Do we want to consider Oracle Guided Learning? We can help you with that by doing proof of concepts. We can let you kind of play with it a little bit if you want to. We would then say, okay, let's do an assessment and sort of look at what guides you have out there already, you know, training guides or UPK scripts. Let's do an assessment, figure out, you know, what's your future state? How many guides do you think you need to build? That will help us then determine, say, okay, for us to do this for you, that's going to be X amount of days to build that for you, or you can do it yourself. And this is how you could, you know, kind of fast track that. So we're there to help you kind of with that, sort of developing that out. And then long-term, we're here to support you either with a managed service if you want us to, you know, build and maintain them, or if you don't want to do that, you just want to buy it and just build it yourself, that's fine with us too. We're here to help you take that approach as well. So we're here to help you with all those different items. I did include a link at the end of the deck, which is simply just an email back to me to say request a demo. We've been doing tons and tons of these demos, and I really there's a lot of interest in this. Let me tell you. So, and Jeremy, I know, has taken a lot of calls on this too. Jeremy, I know we're at the end of our time. Any other questions?
The current question is, can you gatekeep those who can create guides? For example, if we have a central group who's responsible for benefits administration, could they have access to create guides, but only for that module, and they couldn't impact other areas of OGL?
Good question. No, you can't, because again, when you have access to create a guide, you have access. You can create a guide with whatever you can access in PeopleSoft. So if you only have access to benefits administration, then by default, you can only create a guide for benefits, because you again, you're in PeopleSoft. So you can't say, I want to create a guide for payroll, and then, because you can't get into payroll when you're in PeopleSoft. So I guess technically the answer is, yeah, you could do that. But again, OGL doesn't know that. It's more defined by what access you have in PeopleSoft when you go and create those. Was there a second question there, Jeremy? Sorry.
No, I think that's it.
Answer the question? Okay. Okay, any other questions? I see there were a few questions in the chat window on Zoom. Let me just pull that up real quick.
They all got moved to the.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we're good.
So I'm here to do an additional demo. I mean, I've been doing a lot of them. Just send me an email. We do basically the same demo that you just saw, but if you want it to be in HR versus financials, we can do that. Our campus environment isn't completely ready to go from a demo perspective, but if you want in campus, we can spin it up really quickly. We just haven't had any requests for a demo on campus just yet.
Cameron, one quick question that just did come in. How long does an implementation generally take?
So the installation of the tool in PeopleSoft, there's essentially an app designer project that creates a connection between the OGL instance and your PeopleSoft. That installation takes minutes, okay, in a non-prod environment. Once that happens, you're free to then start creating guides. We usually estimate about half a day to create a guide that comes, for example, from a UPK script. So, you know, you guys give us a 30, 40, 50 step UPK script. That's probably about, you know, 3 or 4 hours to convert that over into OGL guide. So you guys can kind of do the math yourself to determine how long it would take to build out your training library based on what you want. What we always recommend is start with the broadest use cases initially. So for example, your top 15, your top 20 most commonly or biggest need. So that's your uncommon users, your people that are infrequently getting the application. How do we help those users first, right? Get that out there, get it working, start with a pilot group, get some success with that, and then start going on to your more niche groups, like an AP group, like a benefits administration group. Do that secondarily. Kaiser Permanente, which is one of the first organizations to do this, started with a certain amount, and it went live. They got a lot of success, a lot of adoption, and it started generating additional requests. And they've, I believe, doubled in terms of how many guides they have out there over the course of 2 years, because they're just like, this is amazing. Our support tickets are coming way down. We're having less support issues. And people love this, and there's adoption. So we're going to keep creating more and more effective guides for people. So that's again, one thing to think about, that the implementation might be a simple one at the beginning and then just start to live and evolve and build new things as you go.
Yeah, last one, and then we're actually out of time, but it just says, will you be presenting at the PeopleSoft Northwest Rug Conference in November? And if so, could you do a demo with HCM in mind?
Okay, who asked that question?
And Amanda Gudmundson.
All right, Amanda, where are you from? Which one from?
I'm from King County.
King County, okay. So let me tell you, Amanda, that I've been hitting Mike up. In fact, late last week, I'm saying, hey, Mike, I need to do a demo for you guys, OGL. So I will give one privately to you guys. But yes, I'm also doing the Northwest Rug in November. I'm also doing it at there's a Canadian hug, there's a Southwest hug, and the Pacific Northwest, which those are my next public demos. But I'm available to do private demos at any time.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Cameron, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for helping with this. And Jeremy's a great resource too. If you want to get somebody that has an oracle.com email address to answer questions for you, call Jeremy and he'll answer those questions for you. If for everything else, I can help you with that. So, but no, Jeremy and I have been working together on this for a year, and we're just really excited. The early indications are people are really, really excited with this. So hopefully you'll consider it for your organization.
Absolutely. Don't forget to fill out the survey if you get a chance. It's there in the chat link. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.